gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sweet Shawnsy from the internet.
Man, that Ewan McGregor is handsome.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear with a pet hyena.
And we have... What's that?
With a pet hyena named Bruce.
Oh, I see. Bruce would name an animal after himself. That's kind of how... That seems correct.
Yeah, I like hyenas. As much as I tend not to enjoy dogs in movies and shows, I love hyenas.
You're a mystery wrapped in enigma, wrapped in a riddle in a wizard hat. And today we're covering Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, and we'll be saying that whole title every single time we say that. That's not true.
No, I will not be.
That's not true. But we're talking about Birds of Prey today, but we just want to say thank you also to everyone who supports this show over at patreon.com/HMP. There you get the pre-show, the post-show, and of course the Dinger Zone, this week's Dinger Zone. We talk a little bit of movie news and also a little bit extra about Birds of Prey that thankfully we won't really have to get into here because it's a whole nother thing. But if you listen to the Dinger Zone, you'll get it.
A whole other thing that we don't even need to bring up.
Yeah, it's just too much stuff. But if you'd like to know what that little extra good stuff is, head on over to patreon.com/HMP and join up today. We really appreciate that. Helps keeps this here show going every single week, man. And we're rolling up on episode 300, guys. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can.
It
feels
is
very much like it.
Getting big, yeah, especially when you got Bruce aboard. Makes every moment feel like a nightmare. I don't know. That's not true at all. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for Birds of Prey.
Are we ready? Sure. It's time for Gotham to meet the Birds of Prey.
I own Gotham.
He's building an army. Unless we all want to die, we're going to have to work together. Hi, boys.
I thought she was just a pretty face.
Nothing gets a guy's attention like violence. Yes! Toss that for me, will you?
All right, everybody, that was the trailer for Birds of Prey. Was that trailer successful in its attempt to get people to come see the movie? I don't know 100% whether or not it is because the final box office results are not in yet, but I don't know. Maybe they should learn a little bit of something. Let's do that. Bruce, Birds of Prey, what do you got?
I've got Jordan B. Gorfinkel.
What? I'm sorry. God bless you.
Jordan B. Gorfinkel is a man sometimes known as Gorf, and he's an accomplished singer in not one, but two Jewish-themed a cappella groups. Now, one might ask why I pointed out Jewish a cappella groups and didn't just say a cappella groups. Well, it's because Wikipedia made it clear that Beta Chan and Kol Zimra are Jewish a cappella groups. But good old Gorf isn't just a singer. He's also a music producer. He organized the collection of American and Israeli musical talent featured in the Voices for Israel project in 2004, a project which Gorfinkel himself calls the Jewish We Are the World. Now, built on the success of his a cappella endeavors, he moved on to include some acoustic guitar in the mix when he made up one half of the musical duo Simcha and Gorfinkel, along with Sean Altman. Now, specifically you, Adam, you may remember Sean Altman because he was one of those a cappella singers from the Carmen Sandiego theme song on PBS.
Oh, hit it, a cappella.
Yeah, so this mighty pair created a mighty wind with their hit song, M.O.T., Members of the Tribe. It was released in June 2011. The song's notable because it highlights the contrasts in different observance levels within Judaism. For example, some people don't bowl on the Sabbath while others do. And you should listen to it. It's a really catchy tune. Gorfinkel is on my mind because he wasn't featured in Birds of Prey. I know that seems random, but stick with me. In the credits of Birds of Prey, there was a special thanks section that you guys might have sat around for, and it contained some comic creators one would absolutely expect, like Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner, the most recent Harley Quinn creators. Gail Simone, who has probably done unquantifiable amounts of awesome stuff with female DC characters in the recent past. Bill Finger, Jerry Robinson, and Bob Kane. They're the OG Gotham City trio because Bill wrote the stories, Jerry drew the pictures, and Bob Kay got paid. Sounds kind of like HMP, but I digress. So Denny O'Neil, Carmine Infantino, Robert Conagher, Roy Thomas. I mean, what didn't they help to make better in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? Greg Rucka was thanked. He wrote what is easily the best Renee Montoya stories ever made. And Fabian Nicieza was thanked too. Well, even Fabian doesn't know what he did. He stated on Twitter that he has no idea why they thanked him in the credits, but he appreciates it just the same. But you know who didn't get a thanks or a shout out or otherwise acknowledged at all? And that would be, of course, the Jewish musical sensation Jordan B. Gorfinkel. Now, some may ask, why would Jordan Gorfinkel get a thanks? I mean, his voice is magically both high-pitched and mellifluous, but we're talking Birds of Prey. Well, let me set the record straight for you guys. Gorfinkel was an editor at DC Comics for nearly a decade where he managed the Batman franchise. His most notable addition to the Batman universe was, wait for it here, guys, I think you know where this is going, Birds of Prey. Yes, as an editor, it was Gorf who conceived the idea that would become the most successful comic book series starring women since Wonder Woman. Yes, it was Gorf who said, let's find a better way to get Oracle back into the mix. Let's make a team up in which she is the brains and Black Canary is the boots on the ground. He assigned writing duties to Chuck Dixon, so everyone remembers him. But the name Gorfinkel is now only uttered from the lips of hardcore Semitic a cappella music fans and not comic book fangirls and boys. Gorf moved on from editorial duties at DC to handle licensing of Batman properties during the 90s. And I don't know how well everyone remembers the 90s, but it wasn't a bad decade for The Dark Knight. I'll just say that. Some money was made. Gorfinkel is also credited as the mastermind behind Batman No Man's Land, the weekly comic story, which he credits with being the inspiration for the story in Batman Begins, though I'd say Frank Miller fans may want to have a word with Gorf about that. But why doesn't Gorfinkel get a thanks when he created the Birds of Prey? I guess both the obvious and the cynical answer is that it has something to do with money or disputed rights or something. I mean, the company who suppressed Bill Finger for as long as DC did kind of loses the moral high ground in this situation. But maybe, just maybe, there's a little karma involved here because after all, as the guy in charge of working out the terms of Batman movie and TV production, including that of the animated series in which Harley Quinn first appeared, by the way, he probably did play some small part in pulling the finger of Batman creator credit. Of course, recognition in a movie isn't the only thing that's important in life. In 2007, the new Munich Jewish Museum commissioned a series of Gorf's creator-owned comic strip to be featured in their permanent exhibition. Gorfinkel is the first cartoonist in the world to be so honored in a Jewish museum. So all in all, I'd say he's pretty satisfied.
If that guy's book isn't called The World According to Gorf, I don't know what he's doing with his life.
Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't read it, but I'll have to check it out.
Make that happen. So here's the IMDb plotline for Birds of Prey. After splitting with the Joker, Harley Quinn joins superheroes Black Canary, Huntress, and Renee Montoya to save a young girl from an evil crime lord. This is directed by Kathy Yan and written by Christina Hodson, who we would know from the Bumblebee movie. So she's getting on up there, man. Kathy Yan had done like a smaller film that not many people have seen, so this is kind of her first big giant one. Of course, starring Margot Robbie, Rosie Perez, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Jermaine Smollett Bell, Ewan McGregor, Ella J. Basco, and many, many more. So let's say, Bruce, my guess is you're probably of all of us, probably read the most Birds of Prey comic books and whatnot. How does this kind of stack up to what is, normally seen in the books, I guess?
It's pretty different. I mean, we watched that Birds of Prey pilot thing from the WB or whatever within the past year. That's a little bit closer to the source material than this is, and that's not even all that close. But I mean, just the general organization with Birds of Prey, at least the core of the group. I usually think of Oracle, first and foremost. Barbara Gordon, when she's still in the wheelchair, is Oracle. Black Canary is kind of like the second member of the group. And then Huntress is a pretty solid member. From there, there would be some differences in the rotating membership, but none of them were ever at any point, well, other than Huntress being sort of the brutal vigilante, but they never really had like a villain vibe to them at all. Like, I don't think Harley Quinn was ever part of Birds of Prey. So you know they're borrowing the name and some of the characters, but they're just giving us a pretty much a new, mostly new story. I mean, this is Harley's story. This is Harley's movie. In fact, I mean, if I can digress just a little bit, I think this started out as 3 different movies. I know at one point they were pitching a Harley Quinn standalone, a Birds of Prey movie starring Batgirl. You know, well, not starring Batgirl, but with Batgirl in the center of it rather than Oracle. And then there was talk of a Gotham City Sirens movie, which would be like Poison Ivy and Catwoman. You know, Gotham City Sirens is like the female villain turned hero types, where Harley Quinn would fit in really well in that. Harley Quinn would probably fit in her own standalone movie, but Birds of Prey maybe not as much. And I think after the sort of underperformance of Justice League and Suicide Squad, they streamlined those 3 films that they were working on into one.
Yeah, because they did have such a long, you know, laundry list of like, here's all the stuff we're going to do. And I think even at the time, everybody was just like, we'll believe it when we see it. And, we were kind of right.
Yeah, but, I mean, it makes sense. This was a good movie for what they were setting out to do. You know, streamline all of those characters into one storyline. And you got Harley Quinn to carry the film to some level. You know, she's the one who's going to open the movie. Whether it opens well or not well, it's going to be opened by Harley Quinn. Nobody's saying, hey, we finally got that Renee Montoya movie. I mean, no one other than me is saying, hey, we finally got that Renee Montoya movie.
Now, weren't you screaming for that, Bruce, at one point? Weren't you really like, where is my Renee Montoya movie?
Every time Renee Montoya's name gets mentioned in any property, I get excited because she goes on to become the Question. And boy, I was hoping she'd be some hint at her becoming the Question by the end of this. I
also know that Bruce is one of those guys that, like, when he gets impassioned about stuff, like back in, like, you know, biblical and Roman times and stuff, he would tear his shirt just to, you know, show how much he means.
What do they say? He would rent his clothing from his person or something like that. Rented his clothing. They always called it a rent instead of a tear.
He's like, there you go. Yeah. Now, Sean, going into this, what were your kind of expectations for Birds of Prey, given what we've seen with DC films in the past?
Well, I didn't have any. You know, I wanted this movie to be good. I like Margot Robbie a lot. I got to say, I have a hard time seeing Margot Robbie with Joaquin Phoenix. Anyway,
if that's how they did it,
yeah, it's pretty difficult. But I wanted this movie to be good, and I wanted it to be more than basically what is promised, and it's not. It's exactly what is promised, which is a very loud, very garish movie with a lot of women, which is, you know, great. But I wanted it to be more than, and it wasn't. I remember reading a review at one point where the talk of it was, this is more of a Quentin Tarantino movie than it is a superhero movie, and that appealed to me very much. And I wish that I hadn't have read that review, because I went into it thinking, well, let's see that. What does that look like? And it's not. It's just a better done Suicide Squad. I mean, that's what this movie is. You know, it's super loud. It's ugly.
A less expensive Suicide Squad too. I mean, I want to keep pointing out this was not an expensive movie by comic book movie standards.
But they make that mistake that DC movies are making again and again and again, which is that the last scene in this movie is all CGI. Like it's all CGI at the end, and it's boring. And I wanted to see something different, quite honestly, and I didn't get it. It's just more. It feels exactly like a DC movie that isn't Shazam or Wonder Woman.
That's interesting. I think it feels not that far from Shazam in a way. And also, I mean, we maybe had some CGI at the end, but we definitely didn't have like Doomsday or Ares level CGI villain at the end. So we'll get to that as we roll around to that. But I think it was fairly practical effects in the climax of the movie. We'll see.
No. The set is completely CGI.
The set was CGI for sure. Like when, and again,
completely and utterly blue screen set.
Do want to say this for all the people, new members that may be downloading this show for the first time. We will be discussing spoilers from here on out, just in case anyone is like, but I didn't know. You know now, spoilers for here on out, so because we may jump around a little bit. But yes, the end scene there with the the car and all that kind of jazz. That was all. But it
Well,
was,
I'll
you
say
know,
the slide, like the big slide they went down, the funhouse, that stuff was built practical. I mean, I watched some stuff on DCU where they're talking about it. And they only got one take.
I'm sorry. So the slide was a practical set. Yes.
Yeah,
boy, don't
literally when they're walking into the gigantic funhouse.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fake.
Every bit of that is CGI.
No, it's pure Burton-esque. It's all real.
It's Burton-esque.
They only got one take on the slide because Rosie Perez was too scared to go down it a second time.
Oh no, I'm not doing that again. Man, Rosie Perez. It's been so long since I've seen Rosie Perez. I just she's not the best actress in the world, but there's something about her when she just gets on screen. I love everything about her. She's just a nut job.
It was a very surprising casting choice to me because I didn't know she was in it. And so when she does show up in it, I'm like, oh wow. And she's playing Renee Montoya. That's crazy.
I feel like you can't be from the 90s. You know, you couldn't have been of significant age in the 90s and not have a little bit of affection for Rosie Perez. I mean, White Men Can't Jump is a movie I saw a bajillion times. I saw Do the Right Thing a few times. I was a Rosie Perez fan back then. Still am. I still like her. I think she's very entertaining.
But I like how we get through, I mean, like, especially like her character and stuff of going like, you know how these people, cop movies from the 80s, that's how she just speaks all the time. That's one thing that I did like about this movie is that it felt very self-aware of everything. And I didn't read that Tarantino bit beforehand, but I will say while watching the film, that was the thought that I had, which was this is the most non-blatant Tarantino kind of homage that I've ever seen before, because a lot of people, especially in the 90s, really were trying to rip his kind of style and essence and everything. Oh, yeah. This is that, but without being so sadly, patently, obvious with it.
The title they used while this was in production, you know, their version of Blue Harvest, you know, for example, like their fake title while they were in production was Fox Force 5.
Oh, that's great.
That's funny.
Which that's like from Pulp Fiction, right? That was Uma Thurman's character was on Fox Force 5 that didn't get picked up or whatever. But yes, that was their working title in production was Fox Force 5.
And I think one of the big things that made, well, I'll tell you this. I'll just kind of tell you my overall stuff, and then we'll kind of get into more specific things. I had zero expectations going into this. I think I saw the one trailer, and frankly, the one trailer made me go, oh no, this looks like it's going to be a giant just cringe fest of like a lot of really dumb things and them just kind of going over the top, and it didn't feel like it was going to be good. And I watched it by myself because I'm a manager of a movie theater. So Wednesday night, I locked up the doors when everyone was out and watched this all by my lonesome. And I got to say, 20 minutes in, I was just like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think this is a decent film. And overall, I got to say, I was shocked and amazed. I enjoyed this film a whole bunch.
I did too. I liked it. Another question too, before we get onto the nuts and bolts of it, is I wondered what you guys thought about the R rating on this one.
I think it needs it.
Yeah, well, I think if it didn't have it, it really would have suffered, especially when it comes to the violence segments and stuff, and we'll talk about those. But I think that's like a really important element. I think some of the language you probably could have curbed a little bit, but even that's not,
one reason I ask about the R rating is because the character Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn's, the inclusion of Cassie Kane and their relationship in this movie, that this is a movie that I would imagine a whole lot of 12-year-old girls wanted to see, and maybe they weren't able to because of the R rating. But I agree with you. Harley's an R-rated character. I mean, what they've done with her lately, and I don't mean R-rated, one thing I'll say is none of the R rating here is because of chowder buckets. It's language and violence, and mostly language and themes and content and dark stuff. But, it's some people say R rating. I bet, maybe it's going to be too sexy for the kids, and that's not the case at all, right?
No, there's none of the what do they call it? The female gaze or something like that, where it's just we're doing all the sexy ladies stuff to do the sexy lady stuff. It doesn't really exist in this movie. There's some good looking ladies in it. There's no doubt about that. But there's certainly not overly sexualized in any way. And I mean, let's be honest.
And I
probably
think
we have a director who's a woman.
And we make this PG-13. I think it turns into like Charlie's Angels, the McGee Charlie's Angels. I haven't seen the more recent one, but you know what I mean? I think the R rating helps it. This movie had some difficulty, though, because in addition to trying to tell a story and be entertaining, it had work to do. And what I mean is they had to do some serious course correction with Harley Quinn from the Suicide Squad, from their DCEU, their live action Harley Quinn. Unfortunately, that movie kind of went all in with the Harley Quinn we were given in the first 6 months to a year of the New 52, which people who follow comic books even a little bit know that grand scheme things. I mean, there were limited successes out of the New 52, but as a rule, most of the comic book fandom have decided that the New 52 was a failure. And one of the things that failed in particular was trying to take Harley Quinn and turn her from what people had worked very hard to make her into pre-New 52 and turn her into something that's there to satisfy the male gaze, as Adam was talking about before. And then, of course, they very quickly corrected her course thanks to Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Conner. They've got her back on where her narrative really needs to be. And this movie had to work hard to say, yes, that is still the same Harley Quinn, but we're going to course correct and get on the same page as our other Harley Quinn properties. So it's always, a little bit harder when you've got like not only do you need to get on stage and make people laugh, but you also have to sell some concrete while you're up there, like dry concrete.
Now, what did you guys think of the kind of storytelling, like you said, of kind of doing some of that course correction with the plot of her kind of breaking up with the Joker and how all of that really springboards this movie into the actual narrative itself?
What do you think, Sean?
As far as like just the opening with your animation, how how the story kind of really it's what sets this character off into motion, I guess.
I like all this stuff. I like all the stuff when it comes to course correction. I do like that it feels like they're trying to take the edges off of her a little bit, and they're trying to make her a little less murdery, which I like. The part about this movie that I have a problem with is that it's so repetitious. There's so many of the same things that just keep happening over and over in this movie that I found myself being very bored. I know that the action sequences in this movie are great because they're very well done, but how many times are we going to see, 5 guys stand around and one by one try to knock out a girl while Black Betty is playing in the background? You know what I mean? Like that's the problem. That's the problem that I have with this movie is that it's super repetitious with that. And I would much rather see the stuff where Harley is actually trying to be is trying to help this little kid, and she's not great at it. Like I would rather see more of that than 15 minutes at a Carvel of her smashing guys who looked at her wrong.
And I'm going to say this movie didn't invent the hallway fight or the lineup fight or the one at a time fight. I mean, that goes back as long as fights on film have been occurring. Yeah. I saw old Westerns with my grandpa where one cowboy's fighting a whole saloon and he gets to fist fight them one at a time.
You all have guns.
I was bored by those too. I was bored by those also.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't blame this movie because it's going to be going on way beyond this movie and it's been going on way before.
But I'll say this too. You can also have the opposite effect where you get the Neo Agent Smith fight from Matrix 2. So
yeah, and that's kind of ridiculous.
That gets a little bit much as well. So there's a balancing act.
There was some movie where like Jet Li wound up in hell and had to fight a whole bunch of people at once too, like that. Sometimes it gets a little ridiculous. But the one at a time fight, the hallway fight, it's a comic book movie. You're going to have comic book scenarios. Read a comic book. That's how a lot of the fights go down. Play a video game. That's how the fights go down. What I kind of judge it more on is how much creativity, how much fun, how much believability. Was there stuff that I really liked in the fights? And that sprinkler fight I thought was incredibly fun. I watched this movie twice, and the first time didn't know what I was going to expect. The second time through, I found myself really looking forward to the sprinkler fight and not looking forward to it because oh boy, Margot Robbie's wet, covered in water, and there's nothing lecherous about it.
No, it's just cool
Something
looking.
about her physicality that impresses me. I think Margot Robbie's a pretty darn good actress. I mean, do people disagree on that?
I will say this.
No, I don't. I think she's great.
I'll touch on the action in just a second, but like that was one of the things that really floored me about this movie was Margot Robbie is acting better than anyone in any comic book movie should ever act ever. Because it's like there are moments in this where she's like tearing up and stuff, and I'm just like, why is she doing this so well? This doesn't make sense. This role does not require you to do this as well as you're doing it. Why are you doing so well?
And maybe you like her accent, maybe you don't, but this is one of those things that just makes me realize how much more there is to acting than line delivery. As a kid, as an outsider, or someone not really any more than just a guy who watched movies and TV and thought that made me know what was good and bad acting. But I mean, even just like the I don't know what she does for the physical transformation, but she had to be filming this not too far apart from when she was filming Bombshell, for example. And she just looks like a totally different person. She looks bigger and tougher and stronger here.
Well, the big thing
the way
is
she carries herself, the body language.
Yeah, there's a lot of body language and stuff, and really a ton of it is the way that they shoot her, because she's not super big. She's like 5'6". And you especially see that when the big dude who has a face tattoo is next to her and everything, and that's a giant beast of a man. And she's she's a smaller person for sure, but like the way that they shoot her and the way that they use the physicality with what they've got, it works well enough. She tends to have enough weapons and things that she's hitting people with. So by and large, if somebody's getting an aluminum bat to the face, I don't care who you are, that's gonna sting a little.
Yeah.
But I think really one of the big things to me, like I said, I'm going to go back to the stunts for a little bit, was Jonathan Yasibo is the guy who did all the stunt coordinating for this. And that dude's kind of one of the, I'd say, new guard of action people right now. He's done like all the John Wick movies. He did Black Panther, Deadpool 2 and all that kind of good stuff. Like the guy, Doctor Strange and the Ninja Turtle movies. This dude has a resume as long as your arm, man. And I watched this and all the action scenes in there, and I'm like, this is what Zack Snyder wishes he could do. Because it's like the Snyder stuff, but with like a far better eye. Just it's not as self-indulgent, I don't think.
And I feel like she held on to a lot of maybe what she learned making I, Tonya, but a lot of the physicality and the movement and using her body in these combat scenes. I kind of felt like, yeah, that's a little bit of the Tonya Harding version of Margot Robbie here, and I liked it.
Yeah, the set pieces are fun, whether it's, the sprinkler thing or, the amusement park. They use stuff just at a different level and different things than you're normally used to seeing in these types of film, and it's fun.
What did you think about the fun gun, Sean? Like the beanbag shotgun with the glitter and the sparkles and stuff?
Oh, I did like that. I thought that was well done too.
What a great way to make your set more visual and interesting, and do it via a storytelling thing like a gun. That's to me, that was like, wow, that's super smart.
Yeah, one of my favorite things of the movie. I mean, that's one of those I would enjoy rewatching that like as a YouTube clip, many times. I don't like the way it had a little bit of a breakup in the action to go back and have a flashback and tell a story, then bring us back to the fun gun. I would have liked to have a little more uninterrupted fun gun action. So that might be part of the pacing issues you didn't like as much, Sean.
I don't know, Bruce. Yeah. I have to disagree with that, because especially watching through the second time and everything, I thought about it, because I was like, this is a movie that goes out of order and everything. But if you put this movie in order, this movie would really stink. Even if, as much as Sean doesn't like it now, if it was done chronologically, you'd hate it even more.
Oh, yeah, that would have made it so much worse for me.
It would have really destroyed this
chronologically. Movie. I'm not saying I want the movie done chronologically. I just would have liked this particular flashback break to have either been right before or right after the fun gun fight.
Well, Bruce, that's how you get two bits of action in and make it, and like you shoot one thing of action, so to speak, one big set piece, but if you put it up into two, guess what? You got two action set pieces, boy. It's called saving money.
Well, I would put it right up there with one of my favorite scenes to just rewatch from a comic book movie on YouTube or something, is that whole church scene from the first Kingsman with Colin Firth. the Freebird fight in the church. I love that scene. I think I might like this fun gun stuff just as much. And Margot Robbie just sells it from beginning to end.
Speaking of selling, holy moly, I did not realize how much I wanted to see Ewan McGregor in this role, because he is just chewing on scenery like nobody's business, and it's fantastic.
We're about to have some disagreement between me and Adam here.
Right.
I'm going to say this. I don't think I like Ewan McGregor's performance as much as you did, Adam. But before I say too much more, do you have any thoughts on Ewan McGregor's performance, Sean?
I loved him in this movie. I love him.
Wow, he was my least favorite performance, maybe in the movie. Definitely my lesser favorite of the male performances. Here's what happened to me, and maybe it's not Ewan McGregor's fault, but I'm watching this. I'm like, is he kind of trying to do a Sam Rockwell here? And then suddenly I started thinking, if that was Sam Rockwell as Black Mask, I think I'd like that way better. And he just lost me. He was my one of my least enjoyable parts of this movie.
Huh.
You didn't pick up any wow, this is what Sam Rockwell should be doing, not what Ewan McGregor should be doing.
They didn't want Sam Rockwell for this part, but he said no.
I didn't know that. I did not know that, so I'm glad that my bias kind of came from an honest place. Like if I they wanted Sam Rockwell, then it would have been me not giving him a chance, but I didn't know about that.
But the problem with having Sam Rockwell in this movie is you already know what Sam Rockwell's going to do. You know exactly what the beats in that performance are going to be. And what makes it fun to have Ewan McGregor in there is that Ewan McGregor, we haven't seen this version of him before. And so to have him in it, at least there's an element of surprise where like, oh, wow, okay, I did not know that he was going to do that. You know, I didn't know that was going to be his choice for this scene, things like that, which made it interesting and fun.
I heard he's trying to... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Whereas with Sam Rockwell, I could map out for you before the movie. Okay, this is what this is going to look like, and go shot for shot. This is what the next thing he's going to do is, because while Sam Rockwell is a fantastic actor, when it comes to roles like this that he can just sleepwalk through, and he will, it will be fun, but you know exactly what he'll do.
Yeah, it's going to feel a lot like his character from Iron Man 2.
Yes.
Now, did either of you guys know much about Black Mask?
I mean, I'll be honest. This is gonna. I'm embarrassed to say it, but mostly from the Batman video games. I never read a Black Mask book. I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, there's no. I mean, a lot of people haven't. I haven't read a lot of Black Mask, and the video games are where a lot of people know him from. I think the video games inform how the comic depicts him. Black Mask in the comics is as different from this performance that Ewan McGregor is giving us as this performance is from what you might have expected Ewan McGregor based on some of his other roles. Like, this is a pretty bold reinterpretation of the character, the way that he's carrying on here. And I think, it's always nice to have something fresh brought to it. Talking about a character you might only know from the video games, Adam, what did you think about this Victor Zsasz that we got?
Now, Zsasz, I've seen him in quite a bit. I mean, because he was a little bit in some animated things, and I've had a book or two where I've kind of read. But I did not know, again, this character was in this movie because I didn't do any research. I didn't want to know a lot about it. And at first, when I saw Chris, what's Messina? When I saw him in that role and everything, I was like, okay, I don't really... fine, I guess. But as it went on, he's fantastic. He plays just super creepy. Everything about what he's doing is just weird and strange and odd, and I like it. It was like I was surprised that there was, and honestly, best Victor Zsasz I've seen in media so far, because he's just crazy and weird and strange, and like all of his little tiny weird mannerisms and stuff like that. It feels like a real live scary guy.
And I like Messina's performance. I like Messina as an evil henchman with, I'm going to go ahead and say, maybe a little bit of romantic tension between him and his performance in that of Ewan McGregor.
I felt like there might have been a little something there.
I thought that was a nice dimension to add, but
again, not hitting you over the head or anything with it, not making it super obvious, just feeling like there might be a twinge of something in there. And I'm sorry, that's how you do writing well, is that we all had that opinion, that thought of what was there, and we didn't have to be smashed over the face with it. That's called good writing.
And we didn't need it confirmed or denied for us either.
Exactly.
But I never felt like he was Victor Zsasz. In fact, until I realized, okay, he's got the cuts on him. That's Victor Zsasz or Zaz or however you want to pronounce it. But he felt like an interesting.
They say Zaz. They call him Zaz in the movie.
Yeah, he felt like a good character, but he didn't feel like Zaz to me. And once again, that's on some of my own baggage. I know you guys aren't necessarily fans of the show, but Gotham had a great Victor Zaz on it. And I can't help but compare that Victor Zsasz to this one. And like, this is, I mean, obviously a better performance. It's not necessarily melodrama, but it's not a better Zsasz for me. This is just like the number 2 for Black Mask.
Fair enough.
And I guess maybe let's just break down some of the performances, kill some time here, because then we can talk about whatever else, the breakdown, the big climax if you want. But the crossbow killer, I loved how they wrote some of the stuff around this Huntress character with the humor around it and her being awkward. Didn't necessarily enjoy the performance again. Out of the females in this movie, the female leads, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, once again, my least favorite performance.
Man, we could not be more different, man. I think that she is great in this movie.
As do I.
And I think that she has, I think between her and Margot Robbie, you know, they basically propelled this thing and put the whole thing on their back, you know, like without these two women, this movie is just 100 minutes of people like with a girl punching like dudes in the face while, like, you know, the dance remix of the Cotton Eye Joe is playing in the background. Like,
love Cotton Eye Joe.
She's so like she's so understated with what she's doing, and they want to make her the super bad A, but they can't do it because it's in this, because like the director wants to make her one way and the writing wants to make her another way, and she decides to split it. And I think it's just such a cool performance that everybody in the room keeps saying how awesome she is, and in her head she's like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
And I know the actress has already been stuck in another role in the DC universe, and she's going to be great at it. But with the way that Winstead was interpreting this character, I thought, man, if this was Kristen Wiig, I think she'd be killing this kind of awkward, deadly delivery that we're getting.
Oh, I don't know. Kristen Wiig's also got twice her age on this young lady. I mean, I like Kristen Wiig, but
that might have been a show killer for me if I saw Kristen Wiig was playing this character.
Oh, I just didn't like Winstead's. I just didn't feel like she was pulling off the comedy like she needed to for me. But she has the second best thing. She is the second best thing to come out of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, behind Hardy's.
Behind Hardy's. It goes Hardy, Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
And in all fairness, it's not that I don't like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I really liked her as Ramona Flowers when we watched that Scott Pilgrim movie. I just, for some reason, I'm just not liking her as a huntress here.
I try to find
I thought she's great.
Find it hard to find.
I like, man. I like this really different take on Dinah Lance, Black Canary. I love Journey Smollett Bell here. I thought she was cool.
She was so boring. She was the worst part of this movie.
Oh my goodness. No way. You thought she was boring? I thought she was boring.
So lame. This character is so lame.
I think
she's so bad at it.
Here's the problem. I think her character very specifically is wildly underwritten. And that to me is the biggest problem, because it feels like I like her look. I like, you know, the idea of what they're.
She pulls off the fights, man.
Exactly.
Really well.
She does. She looks like she can handle herself a little bit better than, you know, most, you know, little ladies could.
You know, I'm going to confess that it also helps that she seems to be made up of all the things that the First Baptist Church of Jackson, Kentucky told me were bad for me. So that helps her too.
That don't hurt none.
Yeah.
But no, I understand where Sean's coming from, because I think her character was wildly underwritten. It's written as a very kind of broody sort of, you know, thing, and I feel like they probably should have dug in a little bit more to, you know, the backstory with her mom and everything. They mentioned that a little bit with Montoya and everything, but that's about as much airtime as that actually gets. I feel like we should have gone into something that give us a little bit more to grasp onto with this character, other than like, Black Mask kind of, pushes her around a little bit.
They got to save that for the sequel, because there won't be any Harley in a Birds of Prey sequel. So if they get a sequel, they'll have to deal into some of that stuff. I think something we can agree on, though, is Rosie Perez's T-shirt from the Lost and Found. That was awesome.
That is by far the best.
My wife's already planning to make herself one of these. I love
that's great.
I was like, I didn't actually realize where that shirt came from until the second watching, because like when she showed up in that, I was just like, all right, I guess this is what she's wearing now. But when they mentioned the evidence, I was like, oh, that's where I missed it last time. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because I was like, why was she just wearing this shirt? I'm like, I'll go with it. It's funny.
I love it, man. And there's nothing wrong with just liking something because you like it, right? There's not a thing in the world but just saying, I like it because I like it, and I'm not going to justify why. But I like Rosie Perez. It was so happy to see, like, a little bit of nostalgia, just a little bit of seeing, her still out there, giving us some entertainment. I liked her interpretation. I got to be honest, she felt like a female Dick Gunfighter, the way that Renee Montoya was portrayed here, and that won me over. I just liked it because I liked it. I can understand a lot of
gets around.
I could see where a lot of people maybe said she, couldn't hang with the fight choreography and stuff like that, couldn't deal with the action. I don't care. I like it because I like it, and I like Rosie Perez here.
Does Ali Wong only wear awful sunglasses or awful eyewear? That's
all I've ever seen her wear.
She's in awful things. She's not unattractive, but she always wears just these awful glasses that just make her look terrible. I don't understand it.
Just like the guy from 30 Rock that always had to wear the trucker cap with some goofy saying on it. I mean, it's her shtick.
Judah Freelander.
Yeah, Judah Freelander and his cap. That's her Judah Freelander cap.
Yeah, but Judah Freelander doesn't got much more going for him than the hat,
Well, maybe if you'd found a better shtick, he would have. Ali Wong's got a few things going this year.
I guess so, but I was just like, I couldn't even concentrate on her performance because I'm just like, those glasses are just awful. Yet in the next scene, when Ewan McGregor's wearing terrible glasses, I don't care. I don't know why.
As a guy who has his finger on the pulse of glasses, terrible's kind of cool right now. Glasses.
Oh, it's awful.
They're a few years behind the trend of ironically bad stuff, but they're getting there.
I'm telling you, man, like you look back and there's like glasses that I used to wear as a kid, and I'm like, there's a reason we don't wear those anymore, man. The 80s were terrible land for glasses. It was awful.
And what's even better is those are neither prescription nor tinted. They're just glasses.
Oh, Lord.
She has the choice to wear those glasses or no glasses, and she chooses those. So hats off to you. Do you guys know much about Cassie Cain? Cassie Cain, not Casey. Cassie Cain, Cassandra Cain from the comics.
Well, she ends up being Batgirl, am I right?
Yeah, she did some time as Batgirl. And also Black Bat was another name. I think her current name in the comics is Orphan, which, for the year 2016, 2017, whenever they decided to give her the character name of Orphan, kind of a little bit of an insensitive name for a kid from foster care,
Well, could have been worse.
That would absolutely kill in the 90s.
I mean, there's a rapper called Riff Raff, for heaven's sake, so you can call him anything you want.
Hey, there used to be a baseball team called the Chicago Orphans, which I assume were made up entirely of orphans. I don't know. But yeah, Cassandra Cain, not quite so young in the comics, a whole lot deadlier in the comics. This is a totally different character other than the name, really.
I did like the character, though. I thought, she looked like a kid that would be on the street stealing stuff. Like she just like the way she wore her hat and the costume and everything, and how she very smoothly just went about to people. She looks like she could easily be one of those types of kids.
Absolutely. And I'm also a sucker for a little fat kid too.
They're always cute.
I'm a sucker for it.
I'm a sucker for bathroom humor. So 2/3 of this movie is trying to get her to poop. So
That's
I like
true.
for that too. I like it, man. I like the poop jokes. You guys didn't like Dinah Lance, man. She's something.
Oh my God, she's terrible. Honest to God, it's like time slows whenever she's on screen. It's just like, oh my God, this is taking forever. And then they cut back to Margot Robbie or basically anybody else, and it's like, okay.
Oh, look, the story's fun again.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, I'm having a good time.
When they all decide to team up at the end and Harley puts on the roller skates and they're having the multiple fight scenes with all the goons, on the little thing that's rotating around and the big hands and the tongue sticking out of the wall. I'm having some fun with those fight scenes. Like Harley in the middle of the fight offers Black Canary a hair scrunchie, stuff like that. I'm kind of enjoying that. Were you guys enjoying that?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good, because the actresses, not Robbie, she wasn't in the interview I saw, but they had Rosie Perez, Journey Smollett-Bell, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and they described that scene as like 3 days of hell filming that.
Yeah, so it's all jumping around and getting hit with stuff.
Now, I got to point out something funny, and I'll share this. You guys, I think, will see why I think it's so funny. But Journey Smollett-Bell, I believe, is who was describing it, and she said that the director shot it as a series of oneers that she put together. That's just shooting a scene, right? Do you say you did a series of short oneers and edited them together?
I guess depended upon what she necessarily means by that. I mean, maybe they did.
Well, what a oneer is that you're using one camera instead of multiple angles. You're not shooting multiple angles. So basically, they're shooting it, and then they're turning around. Things like that.
Well, okay, that's fine, but it made it sound like, we were trying to do what 1917 did, only with a whole lot of cuts.
Not really, probably not that. That's again, yeah. That's why I said that. I'm like, that may be the impression that they're trying to give, but I doubt that was what it was.
I think what I took away from it, and I may be totally wrong, but I took away from it that the director really tried multiple times to get a oneer and then just edited together a shot because they couldn't or something. But you do understand that a oneer is that you're using one camera, that you're not using multiple cameras at the same time. Okay, she described it like they were trying to get a one-shot take, which is what I've also heard people.
There were probably a couple of those for like wide shots and stuff, I would assume, but
yeah. Anyway, it was kind of interesting to hear them talk about what hell filming that scene was. Very physically demanding, apparently. And also, they all agreed that Margot Robbie actually is a very, very good roller skater. So good to know.
Just in case, but you want her on a couple skate, I think. That's just me. Listen, I enjoyed the movie. I thought the action was done quite well. I think because the story goes non-linear, because we're dealing with a narrator, which, by the way, again, I want to point out to people, we've done it now. We've done it in several of these movies. Comic book narration and stuff can work. That's always been a thing for me, because so many years go by and everything. And you have everything from like Batman and Spider-Man, who themselves have a lot of internal, dialogue in their books and everything. And I always thought that would be good to throw into movies. And so many people have said, oh, that can't work. It works. It works if you make it work. You know what I mean?
And the movie's very cartoonish, but also I like it that it's a first-person POV kind of movie, and Harley Quinn is the POV, so the world does look cartoonish to her. I mean, it could be like a Rashomon thing where if you saw just a few minutes of what Montoya was seeing, you're seeing a totally different set of events.
Yeah, I like the kind of like when Montoya's looking at the crime scene, going in and out of that from the story to her and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. There's just so much stuff that's in here that's like, oh, that's a little fun thing. That's a little fun thing. And I think it's a lot of like really cool little elements all put together to make the movie pretty fun overall. I do have to ask you boys, what do you think of the what I'm calling the John Wick's dog of this story, which is that breakfast sandwich?
I like a good breakfast sandwich. They're not just for breakfast, by the way.
No, they are not. But
it reminds me too much of the Hudson Hawk cappuccino.
Oh, wow.
No, it was espresso, actually. The shot of espresso.
It reminds me too much of some of the events of Nerd Spawn Genesis that people have to check out for themselves. Okay, one more thing. At the very end credits, I sat through because Adam gave me a heads up that there's audio at the end of it. Yep. At the end, they do this little thing. I guess they're trying to be cute. They cut it off halfway through. But basically, is Harley Quinn saying she smurfed Batman?
I didn't take it as that.
No, it's left to interpretation.
Okay, because I thought you wanted us to think that Batman smurfed her or she smurfed Batman or something like that.
Well, if anything, as that crummy animated whatever it was, oh man,
He's
and Robin.
Yeah, we know he's down to Smurf.
I'm still not quite over all of that. And even for Batman to her and I just no thank you. It's a little bit weird, especially when it's a PG-13 program for kids. Well, let's get down to it. Before we get to our review or our final review here and everything, we do need to come up with one very important thing, and that is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Evan Schiff is one of 2 editors on Birds of Prey. He was also an editor on Rocky Balboa, a movie I don't think we've ever made a connection to, which means we can talk about it now. And I don't know how many of you remember Rocky Balboa, which is the 6th Rocky movie, but it is depressing. Do you like watching sad versions of movies you liked? Then this is the movie for you. Everyone that was in the supporting cast is dead, and you get to see a 60-year-old man climb into the boxing ring with a fighter at the height of his power that would murder Rocky if he was a real guy. He's suffering from brain damage, and while the original Rocky is about an underdog and it is a story of perseverance, Rocky Balboa is about an old white guy showing everyone he's a badass. If this still sounds appealing to you, then you are going to love the movie Birds of Prey. And there's your Stallone connection, editor Evan Schiff. You're welcome. I'm Sean Kovacs. You're welcome.
Stunt coordinator also worked with a little bit with Stallone as well, man. There was a lot of pickings for that, and I was just like, man. So good times there. Well, here
are you checking behind me?
No, honestly,
are you checking behind me.
I
Adam?
was just looking at the stunt coordinator. I was just like, holy crap, this guy's done a lot of good stuff. You're like 87 credits. What's he done? You're flipping through, and you're like, whoa, just like hit after hit after hit. So. Because that was one of the big things that when I watched this movie, I was just like, wow, the stunts in this were absolutely fantastic. Like when she's like on the front of that motorcycle with the skates and everything, there's just a lot of like really decent stuff in here. And while there's a lot of the blue screen, green screen effects and stuff like that to pick up in particular places and stuff, it was surprising how many things were actually done. And I think a lot of that is due to this wild and crazy stunt team, of which there's like 80 billion members of. So
can I tell you?
Did you check who the stunt coordinator was on Lone Wolf and Cub?
Ooh. Maybe not.
No, you didn't.
No,
because I had to do the background on that thing.
That's true,
and that was a monster, and I still got the job done.
That's true.
Man, I got to tell you, I was really, really hoping you were going to say that hyena was in We Bought a Zoo. I was pulling for the hyena to be the connection.
We had one left over, and we put it in the movie just on account. It's like, hey, somebody made it. We can just put that asset into this film. It's perfectly fine.
Is Stallone in We Bought a Zoo?
You have used that as your Stallone connection before, so I think maybe he produced it or something.
No, you're talking about the zoo man. You're talking about
the zookeeper. I'm sorry.
The Kevin James joint. Hello, Bruce. I mean, what show are you on?
My knowledge of zoo films is sadly deficient. I apologize.
Listen, as long as you're willing to take the first step into correcting the problem, we're okay. You know what I'm saying? We want to know that you're working at it. So here at the Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. If you'd like to check that out, head on over to Facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Throw the page a like, why don't you? We'd really appreciate that. Bruce, where does Birds of Prey fall on the Robin rating system for you?
For me, it's good. It's good, but it's not great. You know, we talked a little bit in the pre-show that they kind of made a 1-quadrant movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it's got a 1-quadrant budget, make a 1-quadrant movie. That's fine. I love these February rated R releases, you know, Deadpool, Kingsman. They're all movies that kind of came out at this time with this kind of vibe to them, a little action comedy. Margot Robbie said she wanted to make a girl gang action flick, and she made a girl gang action flick. No more ridiculous than the Expendables. You know, so if that's what you're being compared to, I think it's a success. It's going to have some fans. I think it's going to have some legs. It's going to have some fans. Not everybody's going to like it, but I think the people that do like it are really going to be up for like girls' night out, and let's go see this again a couple more times. I'm going to give this like a nice solid Tim Drake. I saw it twice, was never bored during either viewing. I'm happy for it. I'm glad it's there for folks that want to see it. I'm glad it's there for me to see. So yeah, I'm going to give it a Tim Drake.
Not bad. Sean, what you got?
This movie's so boring. So very boring. I would, man, I'm not sure what rating to give it because I don't hate it. It's something that, like, if it was on streaming, like, that's how I would, that's what I would say to everybody. This movie, if this movie makes its way to streaming, you should watch this movie, but don't go to the movie theater to see this thing. It's not worth it. You'll be like, man, I could have gone and done a dozen other things. But I'm gonna give it. Man,
you know what it sounds like to me?
Say what?
You know what it sounds like to me? What you just gave here sounds like you gave it Carrie Kelly.
No. It's more like a super low, like the lowest Damian Wayne I can give a movie.
Okay.
Like it's just it's fine, but it's just so bloody boring. So super low Damian Wayne.
Fair enough. When I first saw this movie, like I said, saw it by myself and everything, I was pumped, and I probably would have walked out giving this thing a Dick Grayson, believe it or not. Something I certainly did not think I would do before I watched it. Watching it a second time, I'm going down to a Tim Drake, but still very solid. I liked it a whole bunch. Again, it does what a lot of the DC movies haven't done until fairly recently, which is make things kind of fun. It's like, even though there's a lot of like harshness in this, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of stuff that, with guys being kind of scummy, but again, it doesn't feel like it's trying to hit you over the head with a lesson or anything, but it is showing you what it's like to be in these characters' shoes, and frankly, I found it to be pretty effective. That's one thing I was kind of surprised about when, like, she's drugged up and everything, and Zaz is, all up in her business and stuff. It felt creepy and weird, and I thought that they did a fantastic job getting that across. And with the action, McGregor and Robbie just kind of hitting it out of the park with a performance that doesn't even belong in this kind of movie. It's way above this movie's pay grade. I can't help but give it a good, solid Tim Drake on this. So.
Cool. We're on the same page. One thing I will add is if you're a fan of the Birds of Prey comics, you need to go into this knowing this is not a Birds of Prey movie. This is a Harley Quinn movie with some supporting characters you might be familiar with, but it doesn't really feel Birds of Prey.
You hear that? The 3 people who reads Birds of Prey? Keep that in mind.
Been around for years.
I'm just joshing them. Well, we'll talk about what we're going to do next week in just a moment. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, I want people to just sit down and listen to Nerd Spawn Genesis. I took the time to read the book into a microphone and stuck it up on my Heroes and Villains podcast feed. It's not like Audible where you got to burn a credit or anything. You just go to the Heroes and Villains feed and you can listen to it. It's worth what you pay for it. It's free there. So go check it out. See if you like it. Let me know what you think if you're not familiar with the story. But I'm trying to just do something to pass the time sometimes.
Very, very good. I suggest everybody do that today. Sean, what do you got?
I'm on Twitter. Sean Kovacs 4.
Perfect. I want to take my moment real quick here just to shout out some friends of mine because I feel like pointing out to other folks and stuff. So check out my friend's show, the All American Spookcast. It is all about horror and exploitation genre films and things like that. Very small, just getting up. They've only got a couple of episodes under their belt and everything. But some good guys and could use a little encouragement. So the All American Spook Show, check that out wherever you find a podcast. That is it forget, everybody, join us next week when we're going to be talking about Accident Man. What is that? I'm not sure, but our boy Bubba Wheat tells us we should be watching it. So that's what we're going to do. Check us out next week for Action Man. Until then, for Sean Johnson from the internet, I almost had to run myself backwards there. And Bruce Leslie, my name is Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie. By the way, we saw the picture. Evie looks like she probably is like a 30-year-old. Insane. Insane.